But we had a lot of stuff today, Kim. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Diddy's former assistant was forced up there.
What's really behind this bizarre claim? Stay tuned as we unpack every explosive allegation.
Trial against Sean Diddy Combs has moved into its seventh day of testimony. Today, the former personal assistant to Mr. Combs, David James, returned to the stand. Jurors also heard from the mother of singer Cassie Ventura, Combs' ex-girlfriend. He has pleaded not guilty to all of those charges. NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Melas is outside of the courthouse in New York City. Chloe, walk us through what has happened in court so far today.
Yeah, so Ellison, you talked about David James. He is somebody who worked for 2 years for Combs as a personal assistant, and he really pulled back the curtain on what it's like to work for someone like Combs. He said that sometimes his days would be 20 hours at a time, and he would work 21 days in succession with no breaks. And he talked about how he knew that he was signing up for a tough job, but he also talked about how Combs allegedly had him.
Think about that, man. Working 20-hour days, 21 days straight with no break. Think about the stuff he has heard and seen. Think about all this is what I was talking about. This is what I've been waiting for. Because, I know a lot of people are quiet because they probably were going to testify. And then there's people who are quiet because, they're trying not to get on Diddy's bad side, allegedly. But this right here, I said bodyguards and drivers, and of course, personal assistants. These are the people who know the most, seen the most. Wow, that's, boy.
So have him get prescriptions under his own name.
Okay, so, sorry. I don't know if I can mention all the stuff he would get for Diddy, stuff for Diddy to put in his body. But they were just saying that that's what he was doing. He was the one that was getting this stuff and saying that, now.
On Obama's face on a pill bottle, that's just one shocking detail from Diddy's existent jaw-dropping testimony from alleged bizarre drug habits to unsettling party demands. The courtroom revelations are piling up, and it's not looking good for the music mogul. What's really behind this bizarre claim? Stay tuned as we unpack every explosive allegation.
A lot of stuff today, Kim. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Diddy's former assistant was forced up there. We had Cassie's mom take the stand. The Punisher stepped up and got up in there. And then we had a HSI agent from National Security, Homeland Special Agent, who was responsible for the planning. And then we had a tease at the end, a big name coming tomorrow, it sounds like. Whoo! All right, we're going to get through it all,
Potentially.
Kim.
Potentially. We're going to get to it all.
It looks that way. What was your overall takeaway today on day 7?
Overall takeaway, I was surprised. First of all, I will say David James, the assistant, is hilarious. I think everybody was there were multiple notes of people laughing in the courtroom, which technically you shouldn't be doing, but I couldn't help myself either. I had moments where I was just laughing my head off at just some of the answers that he was giving. Of course, his cross-examination was done by Costco lawyer, as we lovingly call him, Mark Agnifilo, because of his baby oil jokes, or not jokes, but defense that was absolutely ridiculous. After that, we had Cassie's mom. Cassie's mom was not cross-examined. Diddy's team wouldn't do it, which I thought spoke volumes, and definitely learned something new of what she had to go through today. Then we had the Punisher, who was a worker that engaged in some of the FOs. Organizing the Miami raid, and he had kind of just gotten started when the day ended. So lots to go through.
So let's break this down. Why on earth would a pill bottle have Barack Obama's face on it? That's the question everyone's been asking since David James Diddy's former assistant took the stand, according to James, during his time working for the music icon Diddy. Never allegations of freak-off parties left home without his collection of pill bottles. But one stood out among the rest, a bottle allegedly featuring the smiling image of the 44th President of the United States. This claim had the courtroom buzzing. And honestly, it's not hard to see why. What kind of pills would have Obama's face on them? Were they prescription drugs, something illicit, or just an odd collector's item? So far, no one seems to have a clear answer. But James's vivid testimony makes it hard to brush off as just a throwaway comment. James described the pill bottles as an oddly consistent part of Diddy's day-to-day activities. He claimed they weren't hidden away in a drawer or discreetly tucked into a bag. These bottles were carried openly like any other personal item, and that specific image of Obama's face. James didn't hold back when emphasizing how bizarre and out of place it seemed. No brands were mentioned, no types of pills identified, just this strange, almost surreal detail the moment he said it. Courtroom reactions reportedly ranged from disbelief to stifled laughter. One observer allegedly shook their head in confusion, whispering to the person next to them, "Is he serious?" This isn't just another outrageous claim thrown into the legal mix. It adds a layer of peculiarity to the broader portrait being painted of Diddy's life behind closed doors. Pills, after all, can carry heavy connotations, whether they hint at medical needs, recreational use, or even irresponsible behavior. But why Obama's face? Specifically, was it some nod to celebrity culture? A hidden message? Or could it just have been a novelty item blown out of proportion? James didn't elaborate on whether it was just one bottle or part of a pattern. But the specificity of the detail left everyone scratching their heads. Legal experts have chimed in, noting that while such claims might seem trivial or even funny on the surface, they can help jurors form a psychological portrait of a defendant. One analyst suggested that the bottle paints a picture of someone unpredictable with unusual habits that only add to the allegations of a chaotic, unconventional environment. But here's the kicker at this point. There's no physical evidence to back up James's statement about the mysterious bottle without something concrete like photos or receipts. This claim lives entirely in the realm of hearsay. Will the defense argue that it's just a wild exaggeration, or will they stay quiet and hope? People move on to more serious parts of the testimony. The Obama pill detail has already gone viral outside the courtroom. Social media posts, memes, and even late-night comedians have jumped on the story. And while Diddy has stayed tight-lipped in court, James's description has struck a nerve with the public, whether it's true or not. It's yet another strange element in an escalating list of accusations, and it keeps people glued to every development. But things don't end here. This testimony only gets more outrageous because beyond pill bottles, there's now talk of freak-off parties, and what James revealed about Diddy's demands might actually be even harder to believe.
Is in carrying out illegal activity and using assistants, security guards, and other individuals that work for him to carry out that illegal activity. So he's one of many individuals that previously worked for Combs that we're going to be hearing from. And like you said, who else did we hear from today? We finally heard from Cassie Ventura's mother. It was very brief on the stand, but she talked about taking photos of her daughter in 2011 when she came home to Connecticut for the Christmas holidays, and that she was shocked to see her daughter's body, that she hadn't been aware that her daughter's relationship with Combs had been violent at this point, and that she took those photos to memorialize them. And thankfully for her, she did, because they showed those in court today to the jurors.
Okay, again, just in case I had to trim out that Cassie's mother was talking about the photos she took revealing all the DV that went on with Diddy. She wanted to, take a photo and keep that for herself, as far as, like a day like this coming. She has those photos. As I said before, Cassie told the mother, and the mother knew about that stuff. She just didn't know about the freak-off. But again, I'm just saying this because it might have been chopped out in the video.
Chloe, explain for us how the prosecution plans to use these witnesses to build their case as it relates to the specific charges Diddy is facing here.
So remember, there are 5 charges, like I said, racketeering, conspiracy. So that's where you get the individuals that worked for Combs, whether it was security, personal assistants, chief of staff. We're going to be hearing from a chef who once worked for Combs. So you have people like Cassie Ventura, you have her mother, you have individuals talking about coercion, force, feeling that there was so much violence in the relationship for some of these women that they couldn't leave. So therefore they were forced to participate in these freak-offs in charge. And remember, if convicted on all, he faces up to life in prison.
All right. NBC's Chloe Malas, thank you.
Firearms. That's where the testimony turned from bizarre to downright unsettling. According to David James, Diddy's ex-assistant.
What exactly is a freak-off party? That's the term David James used while testifying about his alleged experiences working for Diddy. According to James, these weren't your typical celebrity house parties. They were exclusive, chaotic, and reportedly filled with moments that left him feeling deeply uncomfortable. And here's the thing. He wasn't just there to observe the madness. James claimed he was forced to assist with these events, handling tasks that he described as humiliating and intrusive. In his testimony, James painted a picture of an environment where excess reigned supreme. These parties allegedly involved A-list guests, unpredictable demands, and an atmosphere that blurred the lines between personal and professional boundaries. James claimed he was made to act as more than just an assistant. His role included managing party logistics, covering for unexpected situations, and even allegedly handling deeply personal requests from Diddy himself. He described moments where the pressure to keep everything running smoothly felt unbearable, especially as the events became more outrageous as the night wore on. One of the more disturbing allegations James revealed involved being instructed to monitor intimate interactions between guests to ensure that everything stayed under control. He alleged that this often involved crossing boundaries that went far beyond what anyone would consider a typical job description. James recounted what he called a toxic mixture of demands that felt both personal and exploitative, leaving him in an awkward and demeaning position. He claimed that in these moments it felt impossible to say no to Diddy, as any resistance reportedly led to retaliation, whether that meant being yelled at, humiliated, or threatened. What made these allegations even more damning was James's emotional testimony about the impact these experiences had on him. He described feeling trapped, unable to leave the job. Due to fear of repercussions, he claimed the constant pressure to meet Diddy's increasingly bizarre demands during these parties took a significant toll on his mental health. He described each event as a cycle of chaos, where at any given moment something could go horribly wrong, and it would always fall on him to fix it. The courtroom-shaking moment came when James shared one unforgettable memory from a freak-off party he told the court about an incident where he reportedly had to escort a belligerent guest out and was later blamed by Diddy for the guest's behavior. James claimed the public humiliation that followed was so intense, it solidified how expendable he felt in the eyes of his employer. The weight of that memory paired with his other claims added another layer of depth to his portrayal of working under Diddy's rule. If the pill bottles were strange, these party allegations take things to another level. They don't just reveal a toxic work environment. They suggest a level of control and excess that feels hard to comprehend, but it doesn't stop with parties. James also alleged something darker: Diddy's handling of firearms, and what James said about that would send shivers through the courtroom.
In the galley, well, now it turns out again, right? Diddy's sister was there, but his mom and sons were once again not present. Second day in a row. Take that as you will. But David James, his former assistant, came back on the stand as Kim was sitting up. He seemed a little sassy, Kim.
Very.
He did say he didn't witness any violence between Diddy and Cassie. However, he did see a blog post alleging that Combs was physical with Cassie at a club. Diddy searched James's computer history. James had been taking Cassie food at the London hotel that week, but he never saw her. Staff always answered the door. He said
a little suspicious.
Yeah.
Right? There's like this report that something's wrong, and then he's delivering food to her at a hotel and doesn't see her for a whole week.
Without a doubt, suspicious. Yeah. He then also spoke about this Louis Vuitton bag regularly carrying $10K in cash, sometimes more. In the bag, there were 25 to 30 undisclosed pill bottles. These types you can see, along with Viagra and Tylenol, to increase manhood count, and water pills. He later added this one and other E's to the bag and saw
Perky and
Combs,
X.
Yes, X. There you go. He saw Combs taking them. James said he was reimbursed by Bad Boy for the expenses, such as medicine and snacks, but for certain supplies such as baby oil, Astroglide, and protection, he was told to be reimbursed by Combs's security staff, who would pay him in cash out of Combs's LV bag. Now, I think this is key, right? This is part of the racketeering, the business empire, how he was constructing where money was coming from, cash money being spent, etc. He testified that Diddy requested him to bring an iPad to the hotel room that they were staying in. When no one answered, he walked into the room to deliver the items, and he saw Cassie in a hotel bed with a man he did not know in the room.
I have to correct myself. I think that was a typo. It technically was an iPod, I believe. I believe we are before the time of the iPad being super popular. That was my mistake. But just to be, to
an
be
iPod, I remember
precise.
those before the phone and
exactly.
stuff. Yeah, we had to carry our music around on a separate device. Now it's all in one.
Right.
Well, now he saw this other man in a hotel with Cassie, and he said the man was well endowed. Let's go look at that exchange. I'm curious.
It was kind of one of these things, like it was Inner City Press said it, and we kept waiting to hear. We're like, how many of these other outlets are going to say he was well endowed? We didn't hear it, but yes,
with long hair and a large endowment.
And he scurried away.
Did you ask anything? I wasn't hired to ask about their personal affairs.
No.
I love it's the correct answer. Did you ever pick? They keep going. All right. Well, there'll be some more. I want to go through some of these more sassy responses. Diddy was in the shower. Cassie didn't move. James said he never asked them about it because he did not have conversations with them about their personal affairs. And that's what the job description was. He also claims he was subjected to multiple lie detector tests conducted by former FBI agent due to missing items. He found the experience intimidating and recounted incidents where Combs security searched his belongings after expensive items went missing. Additionally, James revealed that Combs kept footage of him dancing while under the influence at a Diddy party. If I recall this, he said, I'm just going to keep that for later.
Just in case he ever needed something to have on him, he then had it. And that's just unsettling. So it kind of just shows again that this idea of him having something on people seems to be a pattern. And in the grand scheme of things, David did not work for Diddy for an extremely long time. It was about a year and a bit. So I do find it interesting that clearly he was looking for opportunities and he got one and he took it. So kind of sucks. But again, this is also the New Year's Eve party that Cassie always really wanted to go to and apparently never got to because Kim Porter was there. So I understand it's like, okay, so the assistant gets to go.